What is going on out there, young world? The world is yours and desire is everything. Welcome to episode 26 of Desire is Everything podcast. I am your host, Sam Wright, creation coach, brother to all, servant to all, and I'm here with the owner, CEO, founder of the Right Way to Go financial firm, my first cousin, my accountability partner, and my personal financial coach, Javonna Wright.
Yes, thank you so much for that intro, and thank you so much for having me today on Desire is Everything podcast.
Well, thank you for coming back. We are looking forward to doing another episode with you and looking forward to doing a long-term, long-standing connection with Right Way to Go as it relates to podcasting and much more.
Yes, definitely looking forward to that collaboration. So he just dropped some exclusive information on y'all. So stay tuned for that. Stay tuned for that.
So I'm gonna go ahead and put out there, you are the one that came up with this topic.
Yeah.
And you was like, hey, let's talk about relationships and entrepreneurships, right? So first of all, I want to give a disclosure. What we talk about today is from our own personal human experience. This is not to bash anyone. I don't want anybody to go back and feel like we are talking about them or downgrading them. We are basically just giving everybody our personal experience in relationships and entrepreneurships. And we want everyone to understand you all have played an important part in our lives, but our story is our story. Your story is your story, and take none of this personal, but we are created to serve, and we are here to not only impact people, but to influence them and help them in whatever way we can. So you want to kick it off? You want me to kick it off?
First of all,
do your thing.
That what you just said, that disclosure, that was I think that was very important for people to understand that it's just having a conversation. And those relationships impacted you in some form or fashion.
Good or bad.
Exactly. And it molded you or it shaped you into becoming the person that you are right now today. So those experiences are important. So I think it was very important for you to touch on that so people understand it's not personal. It's just having a conversation. And these conversations could influence other people to kind of understand how relationships influence entrepreneurship. And having that, as I always say, effective communication. And in relationships, sometimes that's what's lacking.
Facts.
Is that piece as far as communication.
And I know that's an area where I failed at in communication. So.
Yep. And I think that's because everybody was not taught to communicate the same way. Some people shut down and decide to just kind of figure it out first. Some people want to handle it right then and there. So if you have those two views, it's going to clash. Because right now, I want to communicate. I want to talk.
Yes.
Where that other person is like, no, I need to process this. Because what if that person is used to popping off and saying possibly the wrong thing at the wrong time because they dealing with the emotions.
They got to know them.
So if you know what triggers you, give me that time. And right now you being selfish because you just thinking about how you were raised to communicate. So it's right now. So it's learning to understand how to effectively communicate to where you get it. You get it. And I think it's dealing with yourself first and foremost.
Yes.
First and foremost. So yeah, but go ahead.
No, I think that, well, like I said, just being completely transparent and honest, that communication thing was not a strong point of mine in my younger years and my middle age years. And I really just started to learn how to do that because of my past failures, and you just got to be honest with yourself. Like, you have to have self-awareness to know what your strength and what your weaknesses is. And I believe you said that in the last podcast. You've said that before many times, that effective communication is so key. And knowing your partner, knowing when time to speak up and not speak up, knowing when to listen and shut your mouth. It's just all these things that we don't know as it relates to communication. So I think it's extremely important. And I believe that's like just one of the major keys where people fail in relationships. It's just knowing when to communicate or knowing how to communicate.
So how about communicating in a way to where you're not withholding certain things? So how do you communicate that way? When you telling a person only half of the story.
So the question is what again? I'll make sure I get it right.
Yep. So how is it that you effectively communicate with somebody who is not effectively communicating with you? They're giving you half the story.
It's impossible to. You know, if I only know, well, take myself for example. When I got to a point in my marriage where I felt like we were going tit for tat, I definitely withheld information because I felt like if you're not going to listen to me and you're not going to support me the way I want you to, I'm going to withhold information. And of course, the other person's going to feel away. Of course, they're left in the dark, so they don't know what's going on. So now you leave it in their head to assume the worst because you withhold information. I was terrible at that, you know. But like I said, it was, oh, you're not going to listen to me on this, or you're not going to support me on that. Well, I'm going to do this, and that led to just more chaos, more turmoil. So you can.
So do you feel like that was because there was no trust there? It wasn't. What was lacking? Do you, as far as just not withholding information?
I
Not
think
feeling appreciated.
Oh, definitely. Because like I said, you know, in any relationship, there has to be defined roles. Am I the leader? You the leader? What's your strength in the relationship? What's your weakness? You know, and when you're not effectively acting on those strengths and weaknesses, and one person is doing one thing and you're doing the other, then it leads to not having trust. It leads to not having support. And like I said, you don't know these things when it's first going on because you're just living. So if you're not open to the fact of, no, I'm doing this the wrong way, let me talk to you and get on the same page, you'll just continue to go down the wrong lane. You'll continue to go down the wrong path.
Yeah. Now, we was talking about before in the beginning, relationships or childhood relationships and how they've affected you as far as your communication. I believe that we all have some, childhood. I don't, using that word trauma, it's a little different for me because maybe it was just an experience. A childhood experience, because when you say trauma, you immediately think of emergency, something urgent, bad, something bad. So I think it maybe was some childhood experiences that also affect the way that we communicate right now.
Definitely.
Maybe or some in trust. That's the biggest thing too. I think once you lose that trust, just in trusting me sharing certain things with you, I think that breaks down that relationship.
Definitely.
Because it's like it's deteriorating. It's not of as much value because if I can trust you with my thoughts, my fears, how I feel, and then now I can't. Are you the enemy? How do you even?
That's tough.
How do you even communicate from that point?
Well, it's a saying that you can't outperform your own self-identity, right? So our identity is formed in our childhood, and based off of what you go through as a teenager and a young adult, that identity probably is still going to be there unless you get in the right mindset, you get around the right people, right? So my identity was formed off of what I saw my father doing. I remember telling my father was a player. I remember telling my mother, I don't want to be a player when I grow up, Mom, because I saw how their relationship was, right? But after I got my first heartbreak, that changed. That shit hurt, So, I came to college in '94, was dealing with a young lady, still back in South Bend when I was here in Indianapolis, went back. She had went back to her old relationship, and I found out the hard way. Pop came over, dude there, we almost fight because he had actually put his hands on her. Then later on, she ended up pregnant. I knew it wasn't mine. So that was my first heartbreak at 19. I'm like, no, this shit hurt. So when I transitioned from a life of working to hustling and working, with that lifestyle comes, more attention. And so I didn't want to feel heartbreak no more. So I became my father again. I was the reincarnation. I was little Sam. So that was my identity then. That was my character. I wasn't flamboyant with it, but I had a couple different girlfriends. It just was what it was. That was my character at the time. So it's hard to outperform your identity. So whatever my identity was then at 19 to 25, it took a lot for me to break that. It took a lot for me to change that 20 years later. So it wasn't until we separated that I realized that I don't want to be responsible for anybody else's feelings. So I was by myself for a long time because I needed to change my identity of who I was perceived to be, So like I said, when your identity is formed at a young age, it takes a lot to break that. So if you're a liar, if you're not a person of integrity, if you're a thief, whatever you are, whatever the identity is formed, a cheater, it takes a lot to outperform your own identity. It takes a real lifestyle mindset change. So whatever was formed for Javonna at a young age, it took a lot for you to change that. Whatever was performed, whatever whatever I created to be at a young age, it took a lot for me to change that. So it's a rough path.
Yeah. Okay. So changing. How do you feel about making certain changes within yourself that to affect certain relationships, whether it was business or personal? Do you feel as though you have to sometimes change your outlook on certain things?
Definitely. And I call that changing your philosophy. The way you look at the world, the way you look at relationships, the way you look at entrepreneurship, the way you look at making money, all of that stuff. Like I said, whatever is formed as a child, it's not always right. It takes growth. It takes being around the right people. It takes having the right understanding of the world. It takes having the right philosophy about life. So like I said, if you hang around a bunch of broke people, you're going to be broke. If you hang around 4 millionaires, you should be the 5th. So it's all about your environment. It's all about your mindset. But I mean, change needs to occur at some point in your life, especially if you grew up in a rough situation. You grew up in a situation where it's not conducive to growth.
Okay. So how would you say change and doing the inner work? Is that the same? Is that similar?
Yes, but like I said, a lot of people don't realize that's where it starts at, is the inner work. A lot of people point fingers. A lot of people believe that they got it right and everybody else got it wrong. And until you really can sit down and be honest with yourself, and again, have self-awareness, that you're your worst enemy.
Agreed.
You're your worst enemy. Whether you think you're right or wrong, if you can look in that mirror, it's called the common denominator. If everything in your life is going wrong, you got to look at what's constant, and you're the constant in your own life.
In all of those situations,
bad relationships with the opposite sex, bad relationships with children, bad relationships at work, bad relationship with your parents. Who's the common denominator? It's me. I've been here for every event. So if I'm not where I want to be in life, I got to do the inner work. I got to seek help, and I got to be open to the help.
Taking accountability.
Oh my gosh, accountability is so crucial.
Yeah.
So crucial.
And sometimes you have to get by yourself and be able to just analyze what you need to hold yourself accountable for, where you went wrong at in certain situations, or like you say, in relationships. Just breaking it down and looking at yourself. It starts within. Like you said, you the common denominator in all of these situations. So that's where it starts at. So if that means just secluding yourself, getting yourself together mentally, meditating more, but figuring out what's going to work best for you.
Facts.
So I think that's very, very important. So I know we was dancing around childhood trauma and childhood experiences. Do you believe that growing up in organized sports or events helped also mold your line of communication?
Yeah, but it doesn't always translate. So when I played basketball, I was very vocal, right? I feel like I was a leader no matter if I played with Bruton and your brother Lil Gary a lot. Even though they might have been the better two players, I always was the leader. I was the older one. I was more seasoned, and I saw the game. I knew the game. but they were better athletically, skill wise, but I was always the leader. So going into family, I was the leader of my family, but oftentimes I would shut down or take the back seat because I just got tired of not being listened to. Or I'm the type of person, okay, well, prove me wrong then. Prove me wrong.
And then I think that shutdown is where everything starts deteriorating.
Facts. All facts.
Because now I feel like I can't trust you.
Yeah.
And once that is gone, and it can just be trusting you with myself, my inner thoughts, how I feel, how I move. Trusting you with that, I think is so important.
Talk about it.
I'll just
Talk about it. Come on now.
because it's just it just make you feel like I can't trust you no more, even with myself. And that's me. I'm important to myself.
Facts.
My thoughts and how I feel are important to me. And everybody is not going to see it the way that I see it. But if we form that bond, that relationship to be able to communicate on that level, and then, like you said, you are shutting me down and you are not listening to me, whether it's good or bad, you pushing me away is going to make me start reanalyzing my position in your life.
Yes.
And if you really value me, because I think some people take people for granted and they
Facts.
don't value them. They value them just for the time that they was there or meant to be there.
Yeah, somebody on the outside, just backstory, was married in 2007, separated in 2021, and divorce was finalized, dissolved last month. And someone from the outside looking in said that just from what they saw, that at some point I wasn't valued in our relationship, right? And it made me say, And even though I never felt that way, if you look at the circumstances, someone could plead their case, say, you wasn't valued. Your spouse really just wanted you for certain things, So that made me think, like, damn, was that true? And like I said, if you look at the way it all played out, you can make a case for that. So it gets to a point in life where you just got to know when it's time to throw the towel in. Because just because somebody loves each other, just because people love each other, don't mean that they're meant to spend the rest of their life together. It might have just been a season.
Yeah, I'm big on that. Either it's going to be a season, or for whatever that reason was at that point in time. But it was something else that they said about knowing your worth. Knowing your worth in the relationship, and like you saying, just knowing when it's time for you to just go ahead and let go.
Because we're all valuable. It's knowing your value and being able to add value. So it's this thing I call the exchange in value. So husband and wife, mentor mentee, customer client coach. There has to be some kind of exchange in value. The value doesn't always have to be equal, but there has to be some kind of exchange. So it's, if you're my financial coach and you're teaching me all these things and I'm not implementing anything of them, there's no exchange in value. I can't be a testimony for you. You done gave me all your time, all your knowledge, all your wisdom, but I can't even give a testimony for you because I haven't implemented the things you told me. So there's no exchange in value whatsoever on your side. You're not getting anything out of everything you've given me. So just with any relationship, there has to be some kind of exchange in value because we're all valuable.
That was definitely a good way to put it. I like how you laid that out for us, for sure, to just be able to think about it, because you have to do the work. You have to implement, and if, like you saying, if you're not, then that value, I'm gonna feel like you're wasting my time.
Definitely.
I'm gonna feel like, okay, this isn't valuable enough that I'm investing this time, giving you these strategies, and you're not utilizing them. So I'm gonna feel like I probably should be spending my time somewhere else.
Definitely.
Yeah, with another client that values me.
Definitely. And again, that's in any kind of relationship. That's even with your children.
Yeah.
If I'm pouring into you and you're not you're not implementing anything that I've taught you, then you gonna look at your child like, what am I doing wrong? Because here's the blueprint. Here's the blueprint. So
Yeah.
knowing your worth. You gotta know your worth in any position. Parent, spouse, business owner. You have to know your worth. You have to know where you stand.
Agreed. Relationships with our children. You just said something that was important. We have to feel valued by our children.
Definitely.
It has to be that that exchange of value, of respect. And even once they transition or become grown, it's still the same thing.
Facts.
So we have to learn how to effectively communicate with them on a level to where it's not, now I'm scolding you. You know, I'm communicating with you so that way you can maybe understand, you know, the situation a little bit different.
Gotcha.
Because I think we talked about this before when I was on the podcast, was about you can't communicate with everybody the same way.
Facts.
And
Gotta know
definitely the kids.
Got to know your children.
So you have to know, and not even just with the children, just with people. You have to know how you can effectively communicate with them, because if not, some people, they don't take it or process it, you know, the right way.
Facts.
They have already kind of put together their thoughts in their mind of how things should be. And until you guys are on the same page, it's just kind of going to be like water and oil.
Right. So I always tell, not always tell the story, but 3 kids, Nikasia, Desan, Levi, 23, 20, 11. Levi, the older 2 kids say Levi has it easier, right? I just say that I've learned, I've grown. You know, the older 2 kids got to see me grow. So Nikasia was easy to parent, you know. She was a little spoiled, but like I said, very smart, very spiritual, very easy to parent. I was so hard on Jason in the early years because he reminded me so much of me. And I remember what I took my parents through. You know, even at 18, having my first arrest, I just remember the disappointment in my parents. I remember them seeing my father having to be there at the county, seeing them handcuff me. He took me down there and they handcuffed me in front of my father. I remember that disappointment, right? So even though Jason wasn't bad, he was still doing the things I was doing at a young age. And I was so hard on him because I never wanted to see that. I never wanted to see him in handcuffs. I never wanted to see him murdered, dead on the street. I never wanted to see him selling drugs. So I was extremely hard on him. So our relationship was rough early, right? But you see our relationship now, we've grown so much together. So me knowing that, I parented Levi different because I grew with Jason. I grew with Nikasia. So now I parent Levi a lot different. I can still see his way, my ways and Jason's ways in him, but I don't see him going down the path that I went down. So like I said, you just got to know how to relate to your children. Again, me and Nikasia, we do lunch together. We have intellectual conversations. That's what she prides herself on with our relationship. Me and Jason, we run the business together, podcast together, we work out together. That's where our relationship comes in at. We have conversations as well. Me and Levi, we have the creative, fun relationship, going to the movies together, play fighting, you know, talking about comic books and cartoons and stuff. So like I said, you just got to know how to relate to your children in order to to help them become the best version of themselves.
Yeah, no, I agree. Was it rough then? When did you have that conversation with Jason as far as the parenting being a little bit harder and what you didn't want to happen? Do you think he understood that?
Yes, but it definitely wasn't an earlier. He got it. This crazy story, right? Win the state championship in football. Extremely proud moment, right? That was like just one of my highs. You know, seeing Nikasia graduate to 15 different times she didn't graduate. Seeing Jason win state championship, seeing him graduate. Levi, you know, honor roll student, you know, athlete. But I definitely think one of my proudest moments is when he went to Hawaii for his high school graduation. He went over there with a female friend of his and their family, and he called me crying. Out of the blue, just called me crying. You in Hawaii? Why are you calling me crying, right? So when he first did, I'm like, what's going on? I'm thinking something wrong. He's like, Dad, I get it. So he began to tell me about how going to Hawaii has kind of opened his mind up, because prior to him leaving, I was getting on him because he won a state championship, and I think in December, and January, February, March, he's sleeping in every day, ain't working out. I'm like, dude, what are you doing? Like, you need to figure something out. Oh, well, give me a gym membership. No, you can go over to this weight room in the clubhouse and start working out there. And then we'll see about getting you a gym. You got to show me that you want it. And he literally started doing that, right? So this is March, April, May. I think they went to Hawaii in June or July. I think. So when he called me crying, that was so impactful because he finally got it. You know, everything that I've been beating in his head since he was a little boy, it finally clicked. Like, you got to do the work if you want to become the best version of you. You got to do the work. So as his transitioning from working out on his own and me and him starting to work out, then him going to Hawaii and seeing how big the world is, how much opportunity it is in the world, it finally clicked. And from there, we've been on. So I think that was the aha moment for him, where he got it.
Yeah,
he got it.
Yeah,
and like I said, you worry about your kids. You're like, man, why is it not clicking? And again, because it didn't click for me at that age. Like it took a while for it to click for me. So for him to get it at 17. And now you see him at 20 years old making all these moves. And like I said, we went to Chicago in July to meet David Shands and Donnie. And if you would have been there and seen how this dude was working the room, I had to sit back and watch him. Like people always say, your son is you. That boy was working that room. Like we sitting at a big, long table, right? Hundreds of people at this table. And I can hear him halfway at the table holding conversations like he was he was there for like they was there for him, you know, he was talking to David Shands and Donnie like they best friends. So like I said, I know that the things that we as parents have been instilling in him, all his mentors, all the people that we surrounded him with, I know that it's paying off, and I couldn't be more proud. But like I said, it came in his own time.
Yeah. I know that had to be a very rewarding moment to just see all of your hard work that you've been putting into your child just kind of flourish right in front of your eyes.
Yeah.
To the point to where it's like, okay, like you said, he get it.
But you got to be intentional. The relationships have to be intentional, the things that you pour into them.
Yeah. Relationships definitely have to be intentional. Yeah. So let's see. Personal growth. I feel like we kind of talked about that. What about when you feel as though in a relationship you have to sometimes shrink yourself?
Okay. I was having a conversation with two of Nikeja's college roommates, college friends, Alvin and Brittany. They got married, I want to say, if not early this year, last year. They were doing a video. Brittany was she needed to do a video for one of her classes. Alvin is a musician, and he did the recording of the video. So they recorded me and Jason, right? And we were working out. And they asked a question, and it was funny because at this time, me and their mother separated, still going through our thing. And they asked a question, you know, and I told them, I said, y'all need any advice? Let me know, because they're going to get married. And it's like, what's the best advice you can give us? And I said, have an understanding of what the main thing is. Like, so, for instance, I gave them an example. I said, so, see that door over there? If y'all both know that the end goal is to get to that door, it doesn't matter which way y'all go to get there, as long as y'all both end up there together. So right now, you're assisting your soon-to-be wife in her project. So if she has an idea of what she wants out of life and you have a different idea, it doesn't matter who gets there first, as long as y'all both get there. So you can go around this chair and get there. She can go around that light and get there. As long as y'all both get there, that's all that matters. And even if she lead the way because her career is going to get y'all there faster, that's okay. You can minimize your career and still be you, still do your thing. Y'all just got to have an understanding of that's what the plan is.
So what about when that's still your plan, but then that other person, their plan changes? So y'all started together. Y'all had the same goals.
Same goals.
We getting there together. Somewhere along the line, you continue to chase your goals, but that person's goals have stopped, and their planning kind of has stopped.
That's not good.
And they're not communicating with you.
That's not good.
That their plans have stopped.
That's not good.
So here you are, still thinking, all right, cool. Well, I'm going to just continue on, and when they ready, I'm going to be right back, right there to extend that hand. but their plan is not to ever catch up with you.
That's not good. I think one thing is we did wrong. We didn't do premarital counseling. I was saved at the time that we got married. I had been baptized. I'd been going to a certain church, New Corinthian. Shout out to y'all. I can't recall. I don't think she had started going yet at that time. So we didn't do premarital counseling. I believe that premarital counseling would have helped curb a lot of things that went wrong in our relationship. Because like I said, we were getting married because that was the thing to do. You know, we had 2 kids at that time. You know, Levi came 4 years later. And I don't believe that, 5 years later. I just don't believe that we had an understanding of what the end goal was when we got married. You know, so like I said, again, plans had changed as we got married. When I start going into entrepreneurship, I believe that's where a lot of the separation came, a lot of the disconnect came. So back to what you're saying, if you have a plan from the get-go, you need to stick to that plan. If one person breaks away from that, then y'all need to put a halt right there and figure out why, what's going on. Because, you know, what's the saying? We don't fail to plan, we plan to fail. So if you got a plan and someone veers off of that plan, whoa, stop. Where we going? What we doing? Because remember, we said at the beginning, we was going to that door, no matter how we get there. Now, if his plan, if let's say your spouse went from trucking to selling shoes, but he still supported you in whatever your financial firm, that's cool, as long as he still planning on getting to that door with you. But if he's like, no, I'm holding up, I want to go to that door first. Yeah, but we said we was going that door. So are you still coming to that door or not? And if not, then y'all need to figure something out right then and there, because that wasn't the plan. So if the plans change, I need to halt right there and figure out, okay, what's the new plan, and are we getting there together? And if not, then that's a problem.
Are we getting there together? And I think a lot of people have a problem with being openly honest with that part, because that other person might be part of the beginning of this new plan, but potentially only the beginning, and that's where it ends. And again, that's where that communication piece comes in again, at just communicating with that person and giving them the options and the choices. But you talked about entrepreneurship and a relationship, and as far as when you feel as though it maybe started deteriorating within yours. I do agree, my personal opinion, that it is better to date an entrepreneur, because they're going to get it. You're going to be able to have those late night conversations. You're going to be able to have those intellectual conversations and share ideas to where it's not feeling like it's falling on a deaf ear. So I think that is important, because you share a common denominator. You share something in common that is important to you. That is sacred. As an entrepreneur, our businesses are our babies.
Yes, it's a whole nother child.
So to be able to share that experience with someone, I think it strengthens and it nurtures that relationship a lot. So when I get back to dating,
Indeed,
that person has to be an entrepreneur.
It makes sense.
Nothing against anybody that has a 9 to 5. I mean, they can have a 9 to 5 and then have a job or a hustle on the side, or a side business, something like that. But it's just being able to have those important conversations, like, well, I got this idea, I got that idea, because I want my partner to be my best friend. So those are conversations that I'm gonna want to have only with that person.
Right. It only makes sense.
Yeah.
So here,
No.
So where I'm is where I am with entrepreneurship relationships, right? You have to have an understanding of, one, what entrepreneurship is and what you're getting into. So if your partner, for one, the biggest lie I ever told was go to school, get good grades, get a good job, right? We both saw what entrepreneurship was firsthand as kids. Our fathers had their own businesses, they hustled. So we saw it. Regardless if we had jobs coming out of high school, whatever, we still understood what hustling was. We still understood what entrepreneurship was. I remember selling candy in school. I remember dubbing VCR tapes and selling them with a bag of weed. You know what I'm saying? I remember those things.
They go together.
Now, because of the way my life transitioned, I got jobs, but I always had some form of hustle, good or bad, legal or illegal. I always had a hustle. So when I transitioned to entrepreneurship full time, which was for 2 whole years, where I didn't have a regular job, it was all straight sales. 2016, 2018, I know our relationship changed because my spouse didn't have an understanding of what entrepreneurship was and what kind of support I needed. It was understood. There was communication when it first started, but because of maybe me not continuously communicating what I needed or what kind of support I needed, as the relationship with the entrepreneurship changed, I could have done a better job of being vocal about what I needed support-wise. So I know that's where some of the turmoil came from. So in hindsight, now I know these things. So in the future, relationship entrepreneurship should be much better because I know now to say, this is exactly what I need from you in order for me to be the best version of me as it relates to entrepreneurship. I can be Phil Jackson. I can be Michael Jordan. I can be Scottie Pippen. I just need to know that I have your support, whether you're leading in the entrepreneurship field or I am. I can do whatever. I just need somebody to run with me. Our cousin Brute used to say all the time, run with me, not against me. So as long as we have an understanding of what the roles are and what's needed, there's no reason why we can't make it in entrepreneurship and relationships.
Do you feel as though the entrepreneurship in that and if your partner is an entrepreneur lays that foundation?
I definitely think that would help because, again, a lot of people think that the 9 to 5, a lot of people don't understand 9 to 5 is not the end goal always. Like I know people who have great careers with great companies. One of my mentors, Max Migelski, who's one of the top dogs in Foot Locker, he sat me down years ago and showed me why you could be successful working for a Foot Locker. You don't have no overhead. You have all these bonuses they give you. I just wasn't disciplined enough at the time to take that path. But a lot of people work a 9 to 5 and they don't understand that your 9 to 5 is not a good career because when you're when you're turned 65, you want to retire. What do you have enough money put away? Entrepreneurship in the right field can give you that freedom. A lot of times 9 to 5s don't give you that freedom because for one, they're not teaching you financial literacy. You're working for them and they're going to pay you based off what they value you as. It's not based off what your value is. So when you understand how valuable you are, entrepreneurship can lead you to financial freedom.
Definitely. Yeah. It's funny that you broke it down that way. You got your way with words. Because it just made you think about it a lot different as far as them and like you saying, giving you performance bonuses and different things like that. That's what they value. So it's like, okay, how do you value yourself? So that kind of takes me to the next topic as far as self-worth, valuing yourself enough to know when it's time to end that relationship. So I think sometimes we perceive things to be a way that we want them to be.
Yes, we do.
The way that we want them to be when it's not reality. And then once reality starts setting in, it's like, is this something that I really wanna? And you start looking at yourself and the things that are of importance to you and the things that you value. And then you start weighing and measuring if those values are still aligned. And if they're not, then who is it ultimately up to?
It's up to you, and I can tell you when you should know when it's time to reevaluate. If you're not growing together, you're growing apart. And I believe that's what happened with my situation. We weren't growing together. Again, tit for tat, traumas, mistrust. I can raise my hand and say, yes, I did A, B, C, D. I know I did. I apologize. How can we move forward? But when you are not growing together, you're simply growing apart. And that was my experience. It might be different for someone else, but you know that's when the relationship is in trouble if you're not growing together.
And I think sometimes we hold on to hurt.
Talk
And
about it.
we say that we've forgiven, but that hurt is still there. It's like that underlying, like, dang, you did me like that.
Yeah. And I know the damage I've done.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know it.
So, and I think that it's hard for some people to be able to ever move on from that, because they're gonna still always feel that hurt, that betrayal, that disloyalty, that, you know, distrust, just all of those feelings, and those are big.
Mm-hmm.
When you feel like you can't trust, when you feel like somebody might betray you, when you feel like somebody is always lying to you, that is going to over time, it just kind of festers up.
Yes, it does.
It festers up, and when it comes out, sometimes it's expressed in a way that takes you out of character.
Mm-hmm. Been there, done that.
So now it's like, if this situation has already took me to this, is it something that I even want to try doing again? Because I've already grown and elevated from that person or doing those things. But if I allowed you to take me here now, how can I trust myself again to not allow you to take me there again?
You remember the nugget I gave you a couple months ago?
You give me so many.
The one about flesh and destiny.
Remind us.
Don't let your flesh deter you from your destiny. Your flesh wants all the things that maybe you used to have, all the things that you feel like make you feel good, make you feel like who you are. But your flesh ultimately can deter you from your destiny. When you know a situation is not good, when you know it's not going your way, when you know that person doesn't value you the way you want to be valued, you have to get your flesh under control and say, hey, I know who I am. I know what I want out of life, and I know how valuable I am. I have to get my flesh under control and do the right thing for me and my legacy, for my destiny.
Yep, I remember how.
Yeah. So like I said, and that goes for men and women. You know, if you feel like somebody's not valuing you as a man, then you have the right to take control of your flesh. Same thing for the women. You feel like a man is not valuing you, take control of your flesh and reevaluate your situation.
But what if it's not necessarily the flesh? Maybe what if it's the mental, or do you believe in soul ties?
I do, but if the value is not there, what are you tied to? You got to be obedient to your calling. If you got this, if God has put this vision in your head, that right way to go financial firm is supposed to be one of the top firms in Indiana, in the Midwest, in the U.S., worldwide, and the soul tie you have is not helping you get there, who benefits from that? Not you.
So you think it's important for, in a relationship, your spouse to support, whether it's your 9-to-5 or your business?
Yes, they have to. Or what are we doing? If we're not growing together, what are we doing? And like I said, it doesn't have to be, he doesn't have to work in the right way to go financial firm. But if you say, hey, baby, I got 5 meetings today, can you prepare dinner? Or I got to fly to Arizona for this conference, can you make sure the kids got this? Then there has to be an understanding that, yeah, that's my role. Because like I said, if my woman is big in business and doing her thing and she needs me to do something, go ahead. I don't have no problem submitting to you if you're the one that's out here making the moves. But best believe, if I want to go play basketball or if I want to do something for me, then the sport has to be there for that too. So there has to be, you just have to have an understanding of what our relationship is and what kind of support that you need from me to be the best version of you.
So that kind of goes back to just having those pre-conversations to see where are we going?
Where are we going?
Are we getting to this door together?
Are we getting to this door together?
So it's so important to just have those conversations, it sounds like. Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah, your spouse doesn't have to be in the business with you. They just have to have an understanding of what the business is and what kind of support do you need from me. You need me to make a couple phone calls for you today? You need me to introduce you to a couple people? You need me to go to a conference with you and take notes and have an understanding of what the business is? Great, I got you. But I don't want to sell anything. That's cool. Sales is my thing.
So they got to be willing to make that sacrifice.
Yes, because if we're not growing together, what are we doing? What are we doing?
Yeah. And I think a lot of people don't date for that reason as far as longevity. I think you have to reach or hit a certain point of maturity to where that's the end goal. And that's the end goal with one person. Vision. And I think right now, the way society is portraying certain things, it's cool. When it's okay to have, a woman that does this for you or a woman that does that for you and a woman that does something else for you. Whereas, in my picture, the way that I envision my world is I'm going to handle everything. If I'm strong enough, why do you need X, Y, and Z? And if you feel as though I'm lacking in those areas, that's your responsibility to tell me, like, hey, I need you to pick up on this. Or I need you to learn this trade because this is the next thing that I want to get into.
Communication.
But if you picking and choosing out of different hats and you think that's okay, that's not effective communicating. And it's making me feel like what's my worth? Do you really, again, going back to that value piece, do you really value me enough to take my feelings into consideration?
They got to.
And if not, don't play with them when it's convenient for you.
And people will only do what we allow them to do. Just that simple. People will only do what you allow them to do. So if I let you come in my life and you don't support my vision, that's on me. That's my fault. And vice versa. If I tell you I support your vision and then 3 months down the line I don't, you have every right to check me on it, call me on it. And if I don't change, your best bet is to walk away. It's just that simple. We are in control of our own destiny, but we oftentimes put our destiny in someone else's hands and say, here, do what you want with it. And that's terrible. That's terrible.
Because then you left with that, whether it was time that you invested that you can't get back, you left with the emptiness, that loneliness feeling of, and not understanding, and just not understanding your position or was it even worth it? So I think having those intimate conversations where everybody is on the same page. And then if not, we got to know, like you said before, when to let go, when to cut those ties. But sometimes I believe that it's more of a mental thing. You guys are mentally tied. And it's a hard transition to have to learn somebody new.
Facts.
You sometimes, I think, put up with certain things longer because you're more comfortable. And it's like, okay, well, maybe we can get this fixed. But you gotta be happy first.
Got to.
So how can I make anybody else? How can I make you happy if I'm not happy with myself and the way that things are going? So again, it just all ties back to holding yourself accountable and doing the self-work. And then once you figure out what it is that your purpose is and your passion is, you got to start walking in that, and you can't veer off and jump in and jump out like it's, double dutch. You can't do that.
Facts.
And then you dealing with other people's lives as well. So doing the inner work, making sure that you are holding yourself accountable for your own happiness. That's where it starts at. And I think you can't grow until you get a better understanding of yourself.
Yes.
Self-love, self-awareness, self-worth. It starts within, and we want to point the finger or say, well, I was raised this way. No. Now we in our 30s, we in our 40s. No, you can't use that no more.
I agree.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's just it's so important to put yourself in the right situation so you can be better. You have to want better for yourself. And again, that means leaving your spouse, leaving your job, taking a break from family. You have to do that, because if you're not right, how can anything else be right? But it takes being honest and looking in the mirror and saying, I need help. I need to do the work in whatever relationship you're in.
Great, great. So let's talk about the relationship with potential partners, vendors, or even customers. I think when you have a partner, when it's in the business, you guys are sharing for one, the business. So it's like co-parenting. So you have to value how they feel about the business, about certain things, about certain aspects. So I think I'm against partnerships when it comes to business.
Okay.
What's your standpoint on that? Because and maybe that's the control thing. Because I have total control versus having to wait on somebody else to chime in when it comes to partnerships.
I definitely think that if you're not married, that could be an issue because again, if you're just dating, what happens if the dating doesn't work out? And now we gotta separate the business. And you're saying you did this, and I'm saying I did that, and it's not adding up. So yeah, that would be a tough thing to deal with. Trying to have a partnership with someone that you're not actually tied to legally. And the position I'm in right now, and my partner, my girlfriend, we've talked about not ever being married again. So if we ever decide to do business together, that would be a tough conversation. I ain't gonna say a tough conversation. That would just have to be something we would have to have an understanding of where we're going with this. So I mean, that's very interesting that you brought that up because if you're not married, yeah, how does that work? And even like I said, if you get divorced legally, you have to figure it out with your lawyers. But like I said, not being legally tied together, yeah, I think that could be a major issue if you're into business together and it doesn't work. Because like I said, emotions come into play over logic.
All the time.
Indeed.
And especially if you don't know how to express yourself in a way for that other person to understand you. So your emotions are definitely going to play a big part. How do we calm down our emotions when it comes to
it depends if you're an emotional or logical person. I'm more logical than I am emotional, but I am an emotional person. So a lot of things that I dealt with in the separation and divorce, I would say 90% of it was logical and 10% of it was emotional. I had some emotional moments, but I tried to stay clear of those as much as possible. We all got buttons that get pushed.
triggers?
And triggers. So I think that I had a couple instances where I was out of character because I felt that I was villainized. I felt that this picture was painted of me. Like I said, if I can say I did all of these things, but then you coming along and making up some other stuff, it's kind of like, or you're painting a picture that I did things that didn't happen based off of your timeline, then yeah, I got triggered. I felt like I was poked at. I felt like I was, made to feel like I was doing things that I wasn't doing. So yeah, I snapped a couple of times. And even recently, just talking to my sister, she was saying that, she didn't understand why I was, using a certain tone in the conversation. But once I explained to her why, she's like, yeah, I understand. I get it. So yeah, you can get pushed to that. But like I said, I'm more logical than I am emotional. So when dealing with an emotional person, you got to know when to back off, or you got to know how to deal with them. You got to figure it out because emotions get people killed. Emotions get people locked up. Emotions will turn situations from good to bad in a heartbeat. So you got to know who you're dealing with. Yeah. You got to know people. Yeah. I pride myself on knowing people. And if I see you do this 10 times, I'm betting on you doing it 11 times. I'm not, oh no, she would never do that again. He would never do that to me. We grew up together. No, if you done it to me 10 times, I believe you're going to do it 11. And I'm prepared for that. So if I got to distance myself from you or cut ties, I will do that for my own peace.
So do you give them the 10 chances or when do you feel as though it's a repeated?
Well, sometimes it's not even a chance. It's just their patterns. It's not always that they've done it to you. It's just, you can't read the labels when you're inside the box. My girlfriend Shelly told me that. And so when you get out of a situation, you can read the label. So when you come out of that box, you can finally read the label and say, these are the things I didn't like about you. And now because I'm not in that situation with you, I'm not in that box with you anymore, I can see all of these things. So now I know not to let that happen because I finally can see them. Because a lot of times you're in a relationship, you don't see them, or you've buried them because you don't want to deal with them. So now that I'm out of box, I see it all clearly. It's magnified to me now. So no, I've seen you do that 10 times. Now that I don't have to deal with it, there won't be an 11.
Yeah. So I think we the opposite when it comes to that. I will say that I'm probably more emotional. I let my emotions overcome me or overthink about a situation when it might not even be that situation. But with me still working on dealing with myself, and that's some of the inner work that I'm doing is calming those emotions. And now, with these phones, it's not like you used to call somebody. You just picking up the phone and you shooting a text. And that text can be taken the wrong way. So
All up into interpretation.
Yes.
Yes. Once you hit send,
yes.
trouble.
Yeah.
Because
and with the new iPhones, though, you can delete it in I think you got maybe 2 minutes.
Seriously?
So you got a short span of time.
Yeah, that's terrible.
Think about it.
You got to think of this. It's up to the interpretation of the person reading it. And then plus it's receipts. So I can go back and say, oh, no, you said this. Remember? Because you couldn't control your emotions enough not to hit send.
Yeah.
Man, it's been so many times at work I wanted to send emails to people because I felt like they were attacking me, and I typed the email up and I just sit there. Nope, I can't send that because that's a receipt you got on me now. We'll never send it. We'll never send it because you can come back and say, oh, remember on November 13th, Sam Wright, you said this. We holding that against you. Nope, I won't hit send.
So that's where that logic part comes in.
You have to weigh the good versus the bad.
And you can't if you're still dealing with your emotions.
Yeah, because what's going to happen when I hit send? This person has evidence against me. This person can hold this against me. This person can use that later on the line. In my new relationship, it's just you have to be in control of your emotions. You have to be. And it's not easy.
No.
It's not easy.
Especially if you really care about that other person. So.
Indeed. So that's your thing to work on. Control your emotions.
And I think that just controlling my emotions, but also it can't be no reentry.
Talk about it.
Yeah, it can't be no reentry.
Explain that to the people out there listening.
So reentry meaning you just can't let that person back into your life. You have to revisit, those deep, dark moments where you felt the way that you felt, and especially if they impacted it. So you have to just relive those, and it's sometimes like pouring salt on an open wound because it's like, here I am trying to heal from this, and then I get a call. And it's like, okay, so now I got to deal with myself. How am I going to move? How am I going to move? Am I going to protect myself? Or am I going to be vulnerable for the moment? And then it's like, again, you're starting the cycle all the way over. So it's just knowing when you have to deny that access.
Facts. Because you have to understand that your vision is oftentimes bigger than what people see you as. People can never understand your vision if they're not like-minded as you. So I've seen your growth. And now that you're transitioning to a financial firm, you're just taking it to a whole nother level. So if you're not committed to a person that's on that level or not trying to support you to get there, then what are we doing? Like your vision is massive. So why downgrade yourself with someone who doesn't have that same vision, that same get-go that you have? Like it's not conducive to your growth. Yeah. Not conducive to your vision.
So do you think it's sometimes better to partner with somebody who is in the same industry?
I would say yes, but it still has to be compatibility. They still have to be of the right character. It's still that what they call a vetting process that has to be done. You still have to go through the process to make sure that person is the right person for you and for your family and for your vision. All that stuff still has to happen, whether it takes 2 years, 5 years, or 10 years. You still have to do the work to make sure that person is the right person for you. You can't just go along with it just because you see, oh man, well this person, I'm doing $5 million a year. This person is doing $3 million to $6 million a year. Yeah, this is the right person for me. No, you still got to do the work because there ain't no telling what's in that person's background just because they're successful in the same field. So yeah, it would make sense, but still has to be the right person.
Okay. So how about the relationships with the other person's children? How do we? Is that important? Do you think that's important for somebody to ask questions about your child, to be involved?
Definitely.
Okay.
Definitely. And that doesn't mean that person has to be the perfect mom or dad if they come into a situation, but there has to be compassion, there has to be patience, and you have to know if it's not for you, don't go too far in. Test the waters, get an understanding of it. Don't rush into it. Make sure that you're getting to know what it's like to be with that person and their children. Make sure you have some kind of relationship with the children growing in. And like I said, don't force yourself in it, but just get a feel for the children and see, because like I said, you might not be compatible with the children. The children might hate your guts for whatever reason.
And that's probably good to know right off the back, not like right, but that's good to know.
It's to have an understanding, because like I said, it just might not be the right situation for either one of y'all.
Yeah.
So to rush into it, to force yourself on the children, no, you have to. It's a process. It's a process, but you best believe that there has to be some kind of relationship with the other person's children, especially if they're at a younger age. If they're adults, that's kind of different. But they have younger children at home that's going to be there. Then yeah, it's best that you take your time with it. And you get an understanding of what that dynamic is going to be like.
Okay. So what about integrity in the relationship?
It's key. Okay. It has to be there. And like I said, again, because of what my identity was as a young man, it took me a while to grow out of that. So I wasn't always the most honest in a relationship, and I used to use phrases like, "Oh, it could always be worse," but that's not good. You should be honest with your partner. Like I said, it's all about what your identity is and what kind of character you are. I wouldn't say that I'm a conniving, lying person, but I had some dishonesty in our relationship. But like I said, it comes with growth. It comes with outperforming your own identity. And I think once I got to a point where my mindset became different, I understood the damage that being dishonest did in my relationships. So yeah, it's very, very important.
So when you say that word mindset, I think that you and your partner's mindset have to be aligned. And then again, the moment that we own this journey together and you decide to take a break or whatever the situation is, it's just so important to have that conversation and not go outside of your partner and start, communicating or finding spending time with other people. I think it's so important to effectively communicate right then and there. Like, hey, I know that you don't want, an open relationship, but right now that's the path, that I'm on, and let me choose. Let me choose. Don't allow me to continue on this journey where we are growing and going together. I'm thinking, but you branching off. Because now, again, me being an emotional person, and I think now that you've brought that to my attention, it makes sense now. Because I'm more emotional, so I am going to think about myself and how it's making me feel. So that's going to outweigh how you feel.
Facts. And oftentimes people will withhold some of the truth because they believe that they're protecting us. It's hard to have honest conversations with people, especially if they're emotional, because you're more worried about how they're going to react, what the backlash is going to be. Are they really going to truly understand and hear me? At a point in time where I cut things off in our separation, it was not an understanding of why, but I was very forward, like it's a wrap. I know we're not getting back I know we're not getting back together, and it wasn't received well. So oftentimes you won't be completely honest with the partner because the way that it will be received. You feel like people will take things the wrong way. Things will get out of control. So you think by withholding the truth, you think it's going to make the situation better, but it's only going to prolong the inevitable chaos. disaster. So it's tough. It's tough being honest in relationships, but it's best to get it done now and out the way as soon as possible, and deal with the catastrophe as soon as possible, because it's coming.
Because once that chaos is out there, it's out there.
It's out there.
And sometimes you can't fix it. Certain things you just can't come back from.
Facts.
So it's just so important to, again, like we said, make sure you check your emotions at the door. Think logically as to how this is going to affect everybody that's involved, not just yourself. And I don't think that we sometimes think about that.
Right.
That's that selfishness where we only thinking about how it's going to affect us.
But real quick, people will say they want the truth, but don't know how to handle the truth. That happens a lot in relationships. Yeah, tell me what you want. Tell me what's going on. I want you to be completely honest with me. And then you're honest with a person, and they flip out. So.
And that person is probably an emotional person.
Indeed. Indeed. Control your emotions, everybody, men and women.
Yes. So let's see, what else haven't we talked about?
You're doing a great job, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, where are we at on the live?
Mine's is froze.
Okay,
so
don't worry about it.
There we go. No, it's not no more. But so we talked about personal growth, knowing what's worth working through.
Everything, if you truly know that this person and this situation is right for you. We all make mistakes. It just is. A therapist said this one time: we're all humans having our own human experience, right? So we're all going to sin. We're all going to make mistakes. No one is beyond failure. So if you really know in your heart that you and this person were meant to be together, you and this relationship was meant to flourish, then you have to work through the hard times, because no one is perfect. We're all going to make mistakes. But if you get any inkling that this ain't going to work, or I made a mistake choosing this business partner, choosing this spouse, then you have to be honest with yourself. You have to weigh pros and cons. If you got to write it down and make a list, damn it, make a list. But you got to know if this is for you or not. And oftentimes we try to fight for it and all this other stuff. You're not supposed to fight.
I think it probably makes us grow further apart.
Yeah, like what are we fighting for? A relationship is not supposed to be a fight. I shouldn't have to fight to keep our relationship going. It should work out. And if it doesn't work out, we should be able to come to the table and say, here's what I see as wrong. Here's what you see as wrong. How do we fix it? And if we can't fix it, because we should be working on it together, then best to move on. It's best to move on.
Yeah, especially if it's not if you're not at peace with it.
Your peace is everything.
Yeah, if it's disrupting your peace, then it's definitely time to reanalyze that relationship, no matter how bad it might hurt.
Facts.
And I was just telling somebody that in relationships, we grieve. And it doesn't necessarily mean that person has went on or passed. It's just a way that you deal with it, knowing that relationship will never, ever be the same.
Indeed.
So one day you might be okay. The next day you can't get out the bed. Or every little thing reminds you, of that person or that situation. Yeah. And I think that grief hits us at different times. So I think that's so important for people to understand that you can, grieve a relationship once it's passed on. And then I do also agree with it coming on stronger during seasonal depression time, which is the months that we're in now, because it's getting darker. It's cold, so you want to be inside with us being in the Midwest. And that doesn't add to it because it's two things piling up on top of each other to where it might be so overwhelming for you that you shut down. And I can say personally that I've experienced that because my birthday's in August, and then I'm getting the kids ready for school, and then it's just that transition where it's kind of like my slow months.
Okay.
So I've dealt with it as far as seasonal depression for years. And it's like each year you try to put strategies and the different techniques that you've learned from your therapist in place, but it always hits at that same time. So that's when you have to pull from within, and that's that relationship you got to have with that higher power
Come on now.
to help you transition from that deep dark space that you can potentially be in. So, because you got two things attacking you, at once.
Facts.
So it's just, again, making sure that you are grounded with your faith, because that faith is going to pull you through some things that you probably never ever thought that you would ever experience. So it's just relying, on that. And then I think that sometimes in relationships, the devil knows how to attack you.
Definitely.
Yeah. So if you everything's going good for you financially, within your business, within your career, and then here comes the kids. So and again, it's those relationships that are sometimes attacked. So making sure that you and your children are on the same page, that you guys can effectively communicate, and for them to be able to trust in you and be able to take that constructive criticism. And don't look at it just, oh, this is my parent, she, complaining. No. Like you said with your son, you saw him doing certain things that reminded you of your younger self.
Man.
So we want to jump in front of that bus before it hits him. We're parents. We want to be protectors. So when things are going good and the devil can get to you through just yourself, then he'll start attacking the kids. To where that level of communication, it has ceased. And as the type of parents we are, our kids are kind of all we know.
All we know.
I don't think
everything.
I could. I don't think I can imagine my life without them. So, and if he knows that, and he knows that's a weakness, then that's a way to attack. Yeah.
And so with the separation and divorce, my biggest concern was, because you see it in like movies and TV shows where the kids be like, it was my fault. I don't ever think my kids thought that, but I did feel like I failed them because of the separation and now, like I said, the divorce. But in my estimation, they are all right. I think our relationship is still great. They will have to they will tell their own story one day, but I'm just glad to see that they still are prospering. Two older ones, I told them, immediately, look, y'all got your own life, and I need y'all to stay strong for the younger one, because of course it seemed like it affected him worse because of the relationship he has with both of us, mom and dad. But, I know from my viewpoint, our relationship is still great, so that was my main concern. I felt like I failed them, when the separation first happened. But like I said, you've seen us together. Everybody will have their own opinion on it, but I feel like our relationship is great. So I was glad that whatever attack they were under from our separation, that the storm passed from what I see. Yeah, so I think that's very important.
Yeah. And you have phenomenal children. So
Likewise.
I think that the parenting that you both provided.
Yes, we did.
Put that umbrella over. And I think that that's probably just the reason for the turmoil, is just to continue to protect them while inside you dealing with, some things that you're not happy with.
Facts.
But if they got that umbrella, that's all that matters to us.
And again, the way we raised our children, the people we put them around, the things we put them in, it was so intentional. And I thank her for that we raised our children the way we raised them. I thank you for grandparents, aunties, uncles, cousins, friends, everybody that we put them around, it was all intentional. And at any point we saw someone that was getting in a circle that we didn't approve of, we let them be known, and they had to shake it on their own. So yeah, it was very intentional. So couldn't be more proud of the job we did with our children and everyone that helped out. It takes a village.
I definitely agree with you on that. Okay, so the inner child, the inner voice that we have, that we deal with on a daily basis. Do you feel as though sometimes when it's a relationship that is not conducive to your future. You hear that inner voice.
Definitely.
Okay.
And again, that's goes back to, outperforming your self-identity. The inner child wants what it wants, and you might have been lacking something as a child, and that inner voice is still trying to fight and get out and get the things that you didn't get as a child. And it could be good or bad, and it goes back to traumas as a child. If you had certain traumas as a child and you're still reverting back to that at 40, 45, 50 years old, that could be a problem. Because again, your spouse, your business partner, your children, they might not know about it because they weren't there. And they might not understand what you're going through because you don't even realize it. And if you do realize it and you're not doing anything to work on that, it could be a problem, good or bad. It could be a problem.
I agree.
I think I've seen it in a lot of people. And again, until you, like I said, you're honest with yourself, and I use the word a lot, people are delusional. People really think that the world is against them and that they've done no wrong. And that's terrible. But again, it could come from that inner child wanting its way because it didn't get what it needed as a child. And now as an adult, you don't know how to fix that problem. You don't even recognize it. But you should, because again, you're the common denominator. It's crazy, man. And it drives me crazy that people are that delusional that you don't see that everything you created in your world, you were always there. You were present for it all. Because you can see people that have rough upbringings and they break free from that and they're very successful because they wanted better for themselves. They held themselves accountable. But I'm quite sure plenty of people who blame the world on where they are in life and they just don't hold their own self accountable. I call those people delusional.
Oh, so we got to put a D on their shirt.
Got to.
Yeah, I can see that for sure.
Indeed.
So yeah, you got some questions for me?
Just where do you feel like you are going right now in your relationship in entrepreneurship? And I'll wrap it up after that.
Okay. So you said my personal relationship?
Yeah, where are you going right now?
Okay. So I'm currently single.
Mm-hmm.
So right now I think I'm working on self. I think that the past relationship that I was in really affected me because I felt like I had it all figured out. I thought that I had it all planned out. I thought that the plan was still in motion, and somewhere along the line the plan stopped.
Gotcha.
And I think that I received the information later after it was processed. And by that point in time, I had formed my own, opinion of how it should continue to go.
Indeed.
And I think that it has really affected me, just how I'll probably even move forward with other relationships, my future relationships. Time is one of the most valuable things in the world to me. And to invest more time and then to feel like you possibly didn't get a return on your investment or the relationship piece just wasn't valued, it just makes you relook at yourself and how you should invest into people, time-wise, because you can't get that back. So just kind of now figuring out what's best for Giovanna, figuring out what's best for not only just my personal relationship, my relationship with my kids. With them getting older, now they're forming their own opinions and they have their own lives that they're living.
Indeed.
And I think that I'm trying to figure out what role am I going to play moving forward, because they all I know. So it's learning to be a parent, but a different type of parent. I think I've always been in control of so many things. So as they continue to get older, that level of control, is decreasing. So I think that that's the main thing right now is just figuring out what's next for me, getting to know me just a little bit more, because I think that trying to be who somebody else potentially wanted you to be for so long, you lose your own personal identity. you kind of, shrink yourself to do whatever is necessary for that other person. And you lose yourself. So I think just finding myself and networking more, going to different networking events for sure. I mean, I'm always going to seminars and different things like that. But I think that's the next thing as far as for entrepreneurship, because those relationships is what's going to propel my business.
Indeed.
What's going to take it further. And if I'm in the house and I don't want to go nowhere, I can't do no networking.
Can't do your network.
Yeah. So I would say just figuring out what's going to make me happy, and not wasting time. I don't want to casually date. I know that. So I don't want to entertain multiple people at one time, because I feel like you're not giving that one person their fair shot if you got multiple things going on. But that's just how I feel about it. So I think right now it's just the waiting game, and not, at our age, it's more to it than the flesh wants.
Facts.
It's not about that. It's more about up here, making sure that mentally, we on the same page, and that we both don't want to waste, no more time, and that we both agree that we just want each other. And I think society has opened up that door to polygamy or open relationships and living in certain lifestyles. That's the character, that's the role that you have to play. So you continue to do that. And then just, it depends on if all the role players want to stay. So,
well, I'm extremely proud of your growth. Like I said, to hear you, talk about, just focusing on yourself, having understanding the kids are getting older, the having that transition, having understanding of that transition when they get older. Like I said, I'm proud of you, extremely proud of you. I think we're going to have to run this one back, add a little bit more of what things you're going to do moving forward to, take care of yourself more and, get back into the game at some point. I will end with this. We create our own story. So whether it's a book, whether you want to see it as a movie, we all have different scenes. We'll have different characters in and out of our life. Some will be villains, some will be heroes in our life, and you can play your own villain or hero, but you still will write your own story. But it's important for you to be in control of your story. Don't let nobody else write your story. Your story is for you. You have to be the director, you got to be the main character, you got to be the producer. Like I said, people are going to come in and out of each of different scenes, different chapters, but ultimately it's up to you how your story begins and how your story ends. You are in control. So be in control of relationships, be in control of your career, be in control of your entrepreneurship, be in control of your destiny. It's all up to you. And I just want to leave y'all with, remember, your desire is everything. This is another episode. This is the episode 26. Giovanna Wright, Right Way to Go Financial Firm, my cousin, my financial coach, my accountability partner. I appreciate you.
I appreciate you having me on for episode 26, and then we definitely going to have to run it back. Maybe number 30. I like 30.
She trying to take a break from us. But y'all know how I go. Remember, your desire is everything. Die.